How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to another tournament recap. And today we're talking about the biggest ascent, biggest event our Grand Archive has ever had, and that is Ascent Akihabara. So 681 actual players at an event is pretty insane for Grand Archive. I'm excited to see it. And we're going to talk about the top 8 decks. We're going to speed through some of them because we've seen them before and there's not a lot to talk about them, but there's a couple ones that slipped in there that I'm excited to see in the top 8. So top 8 final standings here on Silly.gg. We see first place here was won by, it still says Spectre aggro here, but this is just Fire aggro. Level 3 Lorraine. This one is pretty standard. It has 3 devastating blows in the main. I think this is correct. From playing it at both Ascent Niagara and Ascent Auckland. Devastating Blow is one of the cards that I cited in the most. I think almost every single game I cited this card in. And so I think having it in the main is definitely the right call. Honestly, I'd probably do like a 3-2 split instead of a 3-1 and try to fit it in, maybe take out the third reduce. Maybe, I don't know, maybe take out an in cap. I'm not really sure what I'd do here. But the Rending Flames really come up in the mirror where you need to try to kill them quickly on a certain turn, and Devastating Blows come up a lot because you just need more attacks to push through, like a Nullifying Lantern or something like that. And so this deck definitely is playing around that Nullifying Lantern better than other decks, and it's using the reduces mainly for the sensor, but still, it's just Fire aggro, or Fire Crux Lorraine. Has some Regals on the side, some Heavenly Guides, Crystallized Destiny. I do like actually the Varuk on the side. This is one card that me and Kaven were talking about after Auckland that maybe we should have actually thought about playing Varuk, because it actually plays a lot into this deck. Getting out of the prevention that someone might be playing with a Crystallized Destiny, and you can just leave it on the field for multiple turns in a row, actually. Once you get to level 3, it has a high possibility of that being the case. And so Devastating Blows are always coming through, or Flame Sweeps or Rending Flames. They can't stop it with just a simple Crystallized Destiny. So congrats to Raylem for taking it the entire event down. Second place, Pulse. Pulse has been on a is tearing through stuff today, in these recent events. He's doing really well, and that's with Win Serio. This is a pretty standard Win Serio deck. This one is on the Dream Fairies, which not every single deck is on. It's also on a Null Spell. But it's essentially just Win Serio, right? Respecting the Razor Gale, because it is a pretty scary matchup. So it has the Scatter Essence in there for that. Even Nullifying Lantern can come in against Razor Gale if you're with Scatter Essence to blow up their Razor Gales. It makes it harder for them to bring them back. So that's how this deck is all it's doing. It doesn't really want to use the float. It can use it for like level 1 specifically, but after that, it kind of just wants to get the banishments for the Azurite Fate Stone still from memory, so you can start getting those quest counters. But Null Spell in here just to stop some shenanigans. Maybe that Cremation Ritual possibility. Maybe if they go for a greedy, specifically. Creative Shock, or they have a Crystallized Destiny and or a Innervated Agility where they're holding up the perfect amount of cards, and Null Spell can come in handy for that as well. But essentially, it's just Win Serio. Next up is Win Serio. I don't really say anything different about this. This one is on the Long-Tail Growth Sword, Sunbliss Gazelle, and Trained Hawks, and Dream Fairies, outside of some other, getting out tech cards, putting them a little bit more beat down, has some allies so it can go onto board better, doesn't have to rely on its, its Shenju, the Serio here as often, so it can go for beat down game plan. It's really good at doing that. Sideboard, also respecting the Phantasias, the Scatter Essence for Razor Gale, Nullifying Lantern, Crystallized Destiny. And this is pretty standard. Just slight change from the second place list. Oli, congrats to them for California, a little bit of USA in top 8 here. Playing the Sword Saint's Vow. Callie has been on this deck for a while. This one's running the Dispersion and Spirit's Blessing, so a slightly different variant, but it's essentially just going to level 3 or I should say, can go to level 3, but we can also do like a cheeky Hone Rending, early on maybe, with Sword State's Vow even. But Sword State's Vow just pumps a lot of damage. Really cool to see this. Top, I mean, Lorraine is good. We've seen 2 Crux Lorraines, makes sense. And we also see a couple more Win Serios in here. 5th place though. I think this might be our first Water Diana, I believe, to top an event, or to top 8 an event. I could be wrong on that, top 8 an Ascent. I'm pretty sure we didn't see one in Niagara, but again, I could be wrong on that. But this deck is very strong, very scary, especially if it sees the right cards, it mills the right cards off the top. Languid Toad Troll, if you get this into your graveyard early, that turns every single Carpstone Coda into a 2-cost, deal 6 damage. That's a lot of damage, and it's a skill, so it cannot be, spell shrouded. Allows you to kill off their whatever allies they pretty much have on board. Allows you to push really quickly. Crescent Archer is really scary, obviously. So is Frostborn Paladin, because they are just constant threats that are on board every single turn. Nothing crazy out of the sideboard here. Some just tech cards to deal with some whatever that your opponent has. Playing some fun stuff. Bauble of Scarcity. I do like this card. Each player discards a card. It is a distortion bauble. Kind of cool. So you can kind of try to stop them from having interaction. If you've played your whole hand out and you're worried about them having something in hand, you might be able to actually use this, get them down to, if they have 3 cards in hand, maybe use this and get them down to 2 cards in hand, so they have less likely to have something that's scary to prevent damage, or whatever it might be. So kind of cool to see that. Aquamarine Whisperer, though, is your main source of damage with your attacks, and you're just pumping them with, all your decent Aether charge spells, and just pushing damage every single turn, and glimpsing and setting the top of your deck. I mean, if you're not sure what that deck does, it's basically a odd form of aggro. Wind Serio, again, this one's on the long tail Growthsworn, Dream Fairies as well, Winds of Destiny, a single Tempest Downfall. If you're curious why this is in here, we actually have a Let's Talk About It here on YouTube or on our Patreon. We're talking about Tempest Downfall and why it's so good, and what's the point of it, why is it in decks even though it can't get this class bonus. We dive into that, so definitely check that out if you're interested. And there's more on the sideboard here. Winds of Destiny, I'm assuming this is just in here for a kind of cantrip to mess around with your opponent to, if they're on Swords of Saint's Vow, great card to have to suppress their weapon. It can be a 0 cost card if you have 2 Fate Stones you control. You can rest those Fate Stones instead, and then bring this out, and then use this for free. So pretty cool with that. And then, like I said, tech cards. We see that Sunblessed Gazelle, those Train Hawks, deal with those annoying Cheshire Cats, which is why Train Hawk is usually in there, because you give it a buff counter and it can kill Cheshire Cats really easily. Now, a deck that we have not seen for a long time, Wind Umbra Diana. And I will say, though, I think we'll see a comeback, not just with this deck here, obviously it placed at top 8 at this event, but with PTM, I think this deck is also getting a lot stronger. But this deck is essentially, and you can see it with the cards that's in its main deck, is it's rushing to level 3 as best as it can, is using Scouts to search, Fairy Whispers to search for their dungeon guides, get those, and then doing something where you play a dungeon guide and then displace it. Displace it with either, I should say suppress it and bring it back out with either Displace and or Sylph's Envelopment. They run 6 essentially of the same card. This one is banish the target ally you control, then return to the field under its control rested, just like Displaced does. But if that ally was a Fantasia, essentially a Fantasia ally, it enters the field with an additional buff counter on it. That's not going to be the case in anywhere throughout this entire list, but it's in here just as the 6th copy, a 5th and 6th copy of Displace. But essentially, you're going to displace your dungeon guide, get it so you play it, you go to level 2, you displace it, you go to level 3. Now that you're at level 3, you can start taxing your opponent with Taser Shot and Shadow's Twin here, and just constantly getting that on-hit ability to trigger twice, putting the silly, I scroll down to see them, but the curses on them that make them take 2 damage for their second card they draw each turn. And you can proc that with Umbral Tithe and force them to do that, and just make it really annoying for them to level up or to use Draw Regalia in general, or Merlin, who has to take the damage if they're on an even counter. So really cool card. A really cool deck, sorry. We haven't seen in a while. Using Focusing Round with Baby Greens, kind of like the Cake and Baby Green, but this one also becomes a bullet that you can use later on. You have to pay for that bullet, but it might be worth it if your bullet got destroyed, or essentially that's it. Or you don't have one, you don't have the time to materialize it, you need to materialize your other gun, whatever it might be. That is why this is in here. It has a couple of inherent synergies. And we also see the 3 turbocharge, just in case, this is something similar that Assassin Xander used to do, where it would run 3 turbocharge to try to guarantee they have the turbocharge for when they go backup charger. But yeah, this really cool deck. It has a lot of ways to get to level 3 and draw and search their deck and then start taxing your opponent, even with the Regal Inquisitions. Pretty cool card also on top of that, because you can Regal Inquisition and see what's in your opponent's hand, see if there's anything that's going to stop you from when you go for the all-out attack with your weapon, if you're going for like a lethal turn or whatever it might be. And if they don't, then you can just go for it and you don't have to worry about it. So pretty cool there too. Or I'll obviously get rid of some of their win cons as well, is always good. And then finally, our last deck here from Sebastian, another NA player. another California player actually as well, playing Fire Ciel. And this is essentially the Toolbox Ciel, where you can go for Beguiling Coup, and maybe you Beguiling Coup and bring Heavy Swing back, and so you can deal a lot of damage with your attacks. And then while you're doing so, you're making Omens as well, of course. And then also the Grim Pastiches to double up on your Profane Bindings, or double up on your Regal Inquisitions, or maybe something else here and there. It actually is on 2 Heavenly Guides in the main. I don't think we've seen many people doing that, so it's really like okay to take, because CL in general is actually really okay to take a turn off or 2, and so if that's the case, if you're against a level 3 deck, especially something like a Serio that's going to rush there, then Heavenly Guide, where it's going to keep your influence because you're only minusing 1 card to go from level 2 to level 3, is pretty darn good. So you're very okay with that trade. And then of course I'm sure you side them out against some kind of aggro deck, probably for Nascent Blast here, maybe a Regal or Peaceful Reunion or a Blanche, to try to survive. It's against aggro, but pretty cool to see this whole deck make it to the top 8. I mean, Caben, loves Fire Ciel. Fire Ciel is getting a lot more support, excuse me, in next set, and Umbra in general, so I'm sure this deck will only grow in popularity and play. But yeah, congrats to Sebastian on making top 8 with it as well. So that's the top 8, guys. There was, of course, a lot of decks, and the day 2 had like 140 plus players. We saw some decks that got awfully close. You can see the 9th place here unfortunately bubbled out, and they were on on Fire Crux as well. See a Water Gembu Mill, more Crux, a Water Fractals Ari almost made it, a Wind Ari almost made it, Wind Wake Up almost made it. I mean, this was a very close event. A lot of players almost making it to the top 8. I mean, even a Water Fractal still lingering around. Pretty scary to actually play this deck, especially with people considering Fantasia hate because of Razor Gale. Speaking of, I don't know if we even see a Razor Gale in the top here, so at least not in the top 50. We actually do see a Jin, though, instead. But yes, that's it, guys. If you're curious about any of the other decks that might have topped, or I should say day 2, or maybe want to look at the top 8 decks, definitely check out Silly.gg. Go to the events tab at the top here, and you can find all the events that are occurring throughout the seasons, everything here. So here's like I said, here's Aki, and you can click on that and see those decks. But thank you so much, you guys, for watching. Especially huge thank you to our patrons over at the $100+ tier for making all this possible for us here at True Champion Gaming. We really appreciate you, John and Dave. You guys are awesome superstars. We appreciate you a lot. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.